I don't celebrate crap. We don't celebrate bad stuff. We don't celebrate everything just to celebrate. Not everything deserves applause. When the why is high, the cost is low. So celebration keeps the team grounded, reminding them of progress they've made and fueling them for the future. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. That's pretty baseline here for what we're trying to do in the church, is especially when you're leading volunteers who are not getting paid, making sure there is a culture of joy is imperative. A great leader walks away from that conversation and that person feels confident, feels secure, and feels like you're behind them. But you cannot carry a spirit of offense because, it's not personal attacks. I'm not attacking you as a person. I'm attacking the better version of yourself that I know God has put inside of you. If you don't feel unity in your team, it's time to correct that. Celebration downstream, recognizing the wins of every team member is the key to fostering this unity. Healthy people celebrate. Secure people celebrate other people. Insecure people can't celebrate other people because they feel like they're in competition. A critical spirit, by the way, always leads to a doubting heart. If you're constantly critical and you can only see the bad in every situation, you're a nag. We don't want that. We're not leading out of feelings. We're leading out of truth. A celebration doesn't need cake. It needs hugs, laughter, and genuine connection. Because if you can't be honest with your culture, you're probably not honest with yourself. A contagious spirit, contagious energy, contagious joy is a true it factor in the majority of teams. So celebrate, but don't celebrate crap. Ask yourself, are you celebrating what matters most, or are you just filling space? Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Conversations. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a culture of joy and celebration. I think this is imperative. I believe it's not just about throwing parties or giving high fives or having cool events, but celebration is a leadership tool that can reinforce vision. I believe it can build morale and align your team like nothing else. There's nothing like a culture of joy and a culture of celebration. And just like the bottom line here, here's the thing. Not all celebration is created equally. Celebrating the wrong things and you're going to risk undermining your vision. Celebrate the right way and you'll fuel joy, progress, and unity in your team. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into what it means to celebrate with purpose, how to balance big vision with encouragement, why celebration isn't just fluff, and how it drains cultural change in your church. If you've ever struggled to keep your team motivated or wondered how to keep joy alive in the middle of ministry, this episode is for you. So let's talk about how to celebrate and how celebration can transform your leadership. Like I said, celebration is a vital part of leadership, but it's not about empty applause or unchecked positivity. We're not just forcing it. We're not just celebrating bad things. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Celebration should feel strategic, not manipulative, though. I think there's a big difference here between celebrating all that God has done and making it very strategic. It's a tool for reinforcing vision, building team morale, and driving cultural change, like I said. Done well, this can become the balance to a big vision, ensuring teams are encouraged, energized, and aligned. And if you don't feel those three things in your team right now, it's honestly, this episode's going to be for you. They don't feel encouraged, they don't feel energized, and you don't feel aligned. This one's going to be for you. So let's dive into how to celebrate effectively. Number one, this is the point here, the key point is kind of aggressive, but this kind of is what it is. Celebrate. I don't celebrate crap. We don't celebrate bad stuff. We don't celebrate everything just to celebrate. We don't just force and manipulate celebration. Not everything deserves applause. Honestly, if you want to get into just basic semantics, you can't celebrate the things that are required of a Christian. Let's just be honest here. Like celebrating basic service. I understand the concept of that, but take a step back and understand what you're doing. You're undermining the obligation of somebody who is a Christian. It's just like tithing. I don't really celebrate what we're doing. We can reinforce obedience, and I can celebrate the obedience of it. But don't celebrate the action, is what I'm saying. Celebrate the heart behind it. Celebration should always reinforce excellence, progress, and alignment with your vision. If you celebrate mediocrity, you'll get more of it. Because we know this. What you celebrate gets repeated. What you reward will be replicated. So choose wisely. Here's a question for you to ask yourself. Are you celebrating what matters most, or are you just filling space? Are you just celebrating to just celebrate? Are you just saying empty words? And by the way, any person in your church or in your organization understands that you're just doing things to just do it. And I don't want to just do anything. I want to do it with intentionality. And it should always reinforce what we said. We should always reinforce excellence. We should always reinforce progress and alignment to our vision, because we know alignment determines assignment. So if you're having a huge alignment gap, we should probably not just celebrate mediocrity. We should continue to move forward. And there's always things to be thankful for. I'm not saying don't be thankful. I'm not saying don't be grateful. I'm saying an independent celebration. Number 2, celebration balances big vision. Big vision can feel overwhelming and without moments of joy along the way. You got to find the moments of laughter. You got to find the moments of joy, because if you don't, promise you, there's going to be a high churn rate. And we know this. I say this every single episode, but when the why is high, the cost is low. So celebration keeps the team grounded, reminding them of progress they've made and fueling them for the future ahead. But remember, like I said, celebration isn't a replacement for leadership. It's a complement to it. Are you using celebration to set the agenda and affirm the direction of your team? Big vision can feel overwhelming without moments of joy. You hear about this all the time in military podcasts or people how were in wars. They always talk about how in the midst of chaos, in the midst of fighting, in the midst of being in helicopters on the way to do a mission, they're still trying to find ways to laugh together and to create moments together and have fun together. In the midst of how crazy of scenarios they're in, they still can find joy. Very much so, just like us. We have to find the moments of joy. We have to find the laughter. We have to do things to make sure that people feel obviously valued and seen. And again, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. That's pretty baseline here for what we're trying to do in the church, is especially when you're leading volunteers who are not getting paid, making sure there is a culture of joy is imperative. But if you're not joyful, your team won't be joyful. If you're not celebrating, they'll never celebrate. So celebration balances big vision. Number 3, affirm publicly, but correct privately. This one's huge. Cultural changes begin with clear communication. Leadership is introspective before I look at anybody else. So if nobody's showing up on time, am I showing up on time? If nobody's having great attitudes, am I having a great attitude? You got to be able to publicly affirm the behaviors and actions you want to be replicated. And this looks like corporately too, by the way. If someone is doing something, and you always celebrate character, not actions. I celebrate the character of the thing, and because I want the character replicated. So publicly affirm the behaviors and actions you want to be replicated. If you want it replicated, celebrate it often. Speak to your team as if they're already operating at the level and vision you have for them. This is prophetic leadership. This is you as a leader speaking to their potential. If you want to know the 2 steps of building people, is finding somebody and speaking to their potential. That's the 1-2 punch of building an excellent leader, is finding somebody. So if you have one person in front of you, find that person and speak to their potential. Speak to where you believe God has called them to be, not where they're at. That is the difference between a visionary leader, a prophetic leader, and just a manager. But when correction is needed, handle it privately. Without a voice of correction, your affirmations lose their weight. Without correction, everything else, your words, your leadership, it loses the density in which that you think you have. People don't respect somebody who doesn't have a backbone. People don't respect leaders who aren't willing to correct. And leaders who celebrate without correction lose credibility. And their teams lose clarity. So if you want to lose credibility and clarity, don't be a person who can correct. And I'm not saying be crazy. I'm not saying be a bad leader. A bad leader produces shame in people, produces condemnation, is a fear-based leader. That's not what I'm saying. But you should be able to correct somebody, and they should be able to walk away feeling encouraged. That's the difference between a great leader and a bad manager. A bad manager, the people walk away with their tail between their legs. A great leader walks away from that conversation, and that person feels confident, feels secure, and feels like you're behind them. And just to be clear, though, there will be If there's somebody carries a spirit of offense, that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is not the outcome. Your responsibility is your posture, your attitude, and the bar of excellence that you said yes to, because God will hold you accountable to that. So again, when correction is needed, handle it privately. Nothing worse than leading a staff call, leading a team meeting, and trying to correct one person's individual character through the whole team. Because what you're doing now is you're going to spray and you're going to project that on the rest of the people. So you have 25 staff members, one person is out of line, and instead of correcting that person, you correct the whole team. Now you have 25 people potentially who are feeling insecure. They're in their head thinking they're doing something wrong. And you can do it all you want. What I'm saying is it's not effective. Because again, you don't celebrate without correction. You have to have both those. You should be able to celebrate and you should be able to correct. You're going to lose credibility and your team's going to lose clarity. Clarity is everything. When somebody doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be behaving, what they're supposed to be achieving, they're never going to feel like they're winning and they're never going to be bought into you. And if you want people to be bought into you, by the way, celebration and correction are the two ways to do so. If somebody honestly feels like you're willing to risk the relationship on the confrontation, they're going to be bought into you because they understand this person cares about the version of me that is connected to the confrontation more than my current state or my feelings. You never want to carry an offensive spirit. If you are constantly offended, I would be highly advised to say you're probably not a leader. You potentially are a manager, you potentially are a follower, but leaders and offense don't go hand in hand. You cannot carry a spirit of offense because, it's not personal attacks. I'm not attacking you as a person. I'm attacking the better version of yourself that I know God has put inside of you. So again, affirm publicly and affirm privately. Obviously, pull someone aside. Make sure they know how great they're doing, how proud of you they are. So again, affirm publicly, correct privately. Number 4, celebration drives unity and joy. Unity is the foundation of a strong culture. You want to be able to define and quantify unity. 1, ask people if they can say your vision statement. Ask people what the goals and objectives are of your team and make sure they understand what are the cultural values, what are the core values, what are the things that they're not aspirational. These are the things that they're a part of me. If excellence is one of your values, excellence is one of my values. Because why? Unity. And again, unity isn't conformity. I said that last episode. If you don't feel unity in your team, it's time to correct that. Celebration downstream, recognizing the wins of every team member is the key to fostering this unity. So if you want to foster unity, celebrate, have fun, and have no motives. Don't manipulate people into feeling celebrated. Actually celebrate people, which goes back to your heart, your motives, and all of that. But again, if you don't feel unity in your team, you got to correct that. You got to be able to make sure there's a course correction that happens with, hey, this is where we're going. A strong leader is able to communicate where we're going, why we're going there, and who we're trying to reach and what we're trying to achieve. If you can do that, people are going to be bought into you. People are going to be bought into the vision. People are going to be unified in that. That's why there's a head coach. You got an offensive coordinator and you got a defensive coordinator. And then there's coaches within that. But at the end of the day, the head coach is the one communicating the vision and where we're trying to course correct unity in. So healthy people celebrate. Joy is contagious and it's fuel for your team. Healthy people celebrate. Secure people celebrate other people. Insecure people can't celebrate other people because they feel like they're in competition with another person. You're not in competition with anybody. You're in competition with yourself and who God's called you to be. So again, like I said, joy is contagious. We've all been around people that carry joy, that there's a smile on them no matter what. And it's not fake. It's not happiness. There's an internal joy. By the way, that's fruit. They just carry fruit on their life. And it's fuel for your team. You want your team to thrive in 2025. Make sure that they have fuel, which is joy. A joyful culture strengthens morale and inspires forward momentum. If you don't celebrate it, they won't see it. So if you don't celebrate culture, if you don't celebrate unity, if you don't celebrate excellence, they won't see it. And you got to be able to be insanely specific. Don't be general with how you're celebrating publicly and privately. Specifically highlight one or two things. Hey, when you did this, this is what I saw. Be insanely specific. And if you got to write it in your phone, if you got to journal about it, if you got to specifically do things to help that, absolutely do it. Because again, if you don't celebrate it, they won't see it. And again, if they don't see it, they don't replicate it. If they don't see it, they don't know how to model it. If they don't see it, it doesn't end up happening. It's an endless cycle in which that you would live in. So here's how to celebrate constantly. Here's the 3 steps to celebration. 1, capture it. If you only focus on what needs correction, you'll become a nag. I don't want to be a nag. I don't want to be the negative Nancy. I don't want to be the person that somebody walks in the hallway and understands I'm just going to have a critical spirit. A critical spirit, by the way, always leads to a doubting heart. If you're constantly critical and you can only see the bad in every situation, you're a nag, and we don't want that. Balance your feedback by intentionally capturing the wins. Celebrate more than you correct. And this is a fallacy or a lie too, that you have to get relational equity before you correct something. That is not true at all. In no other context does that make sense. If you have a child and you're gone for multiple months and you come back and your kid's out of line, you can't not confront that. You can't not challenge that. You can't not celebrate them because you just don't have enough, you haven't spent enough time with them in the last week or two. That's not a reality of leadership. You have to be able to understand that there are going to be times where I'm going to withdraw from something where I didn't put a deposit, but that doesn't mean that I can't go on the back end and put a deposit on it. So capture it. Create a list of things worth celebrating. Look for milestones, individual achievements, and team progress. That's why I believe in SMART goals. I think if you have SMART goals in your system, which are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and trackable goals, if you can produce those and you can celebrate that, because it's insanely specific. We know if we won, we know if we lost. It's not aspirational. We're not moving the target. We're not leading out of feelings. We're leading out of truth. And again, so how do you celebrate? You capture it. Step 2, you celebrate it. Celebration should feel intentional and meaningful. Go beyond a simple good job. Don't just say good job. Be specific. Write cards, give shout outs, host team huddles. We have team huddles on our Sunday mornings for a reason in our church. Every single team leader meets with their team. That's to celebrate. That's to have fun. That's to make sure everybody is on alignment and that we can have fun together and produce joy. We got loud music. It's fun on purpose. It's intentionally designed to make sure people hear from the leader, feel celebrated, and feel seen. So again, a card goes a long way. A shout out in Slack goes a long way. A personal text message, a personal voicemail, pull somebody aside, encourage them. It goes a long way. So here's a question for you to know that if it actually is working. Does it feel like a party? A celebration doesn't need cake. It needs hugs, laughter, and genuine connection. Make it fun. When you walk in the room, what do you feel? One of the best pieces of advice I've ever got when it comes to church is don't think about the culture on a Sunday morning. That is not real. Try to get into a team meeting, try to get into a staff meeting, try to get into a leadership night, walk in, feel the room. What does it feel like? Does it feel like it's celebration? Is there joy in the room? Is there unity in the room? Is it awkward? Is it dead silent when the pastor's talking? Those indicators to me, that's the true authentic version of the culture. Because Sunday, it's our Sunday best. We're putting on the show. But on a Tuesday night, leadership night, everyone's coming in real, everybody's coming in raw, and that's the point, is to make sure those things happen the same way. It's actually authentic, and it's actually your culture. Because if you can't be honest with your culture, you're probably not honest with yourself. So capture it, celebrate it, and then replicate it. If you want to build a culture of celebration, ask for it to be replicated. Teach your team to recognize wins and celebrate each other. So if you're not celebrating your leaders, they will definitely not celebrate their leaders and their teams. And that to me is the difference between a leader who can lead leaders and a baseline competent manager is somebody who knows how to replicate culture in multiple versions of leaders. So again, ask for it to be replicated. Hey, bro, I need you to start celebrating more. I need you to start highlighting people on your team more. People don't feel celebrated by you. People don't feel joyful to serve with you. And we know this, whatever you reward will grow. So reward what you want to see more of. Continue to reward it. Not just like give them money, not just say good job, like I said, be specific. celebrate publicly. So the role of joy. The joy isn't just a mood, it's fuel. That's what we're talking about here. Celebration, laughter, happiness, hugs, all that comes back to joy. And joy is not a feeling, it's a fuel. It brings strength to your team, pushes progress forward, and inspires a contagious energy that's hard to resist. It's really hard to resist a contagious energy that has joy attached to it. Leadership isn't just about vision, like I said. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, energized, and motivated to give their best. If people on your team feel valued, they feel energized, and they feel motivated, they're going to give their best, and you're going to have quality leaders around you. So ask yourself these 3 questions as we wrap up. Are we moving in the same direction? Does our team feel energized by the culture we're building? And am I celebrating the right things in the right way with the right frequency? Celebrate constantly, but celebrate with purpose. Create a culture where joy and progress coexist, where celebration reinforces the vision, and where every win brings your team closer to the goal. Remember, healthy teams celebrate and great leaders lead the way in this. So I'm going to read these points again. And again, I believe a contagious spirit, contagious energy, contagious joy is a true it factor in the majority of teams. So celebrate, but don't celebrate crap. Ask yourself, are you celebrating what matters most, or are you just filling space? Celebration balances big vision. Celebration isn't a replacement for leadership. Affirm publicly, correct privately. Cultural change begins with clear communication. Publicly affirm the behaviors and actions you want to see replicated. But obviously, when correction is needed, handle it privately. Without a voice of correction, you lose credibility and you lose clarity. Celebration drives unity and joy. And how do you celebrate constantly? You capture it, you celebrate it, you replicate it. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I believe a contagious spirit is the it factor for the best teams in the world, no matter if you're in the church or not. I believe, again, having fun together, making a difference together is truly how we're going to continue to do this thing for decades and years, not just days and months. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you can, subscribe if you're on the podcast, listening on any of the platforms. Make sure to subscribe, maybe leave a review. It helps us reach more people. Thank you.